Final be Big Bill. You can have this in a couple minutes.
We would like to welcome you to the 15th Jaybird Day. This is a remarkable day because there's so many of us still alive, and we're very happy about that. We hope we'll be that lucky in the future. Now, we've been putting this off a little bit. We're about an hour late because Normart forgot to hook up the PA system, so I have somebody to blame in this respect. We'd like to tell you that this is really a grand affair. We all like to think this is our best drum corps day of the year. Now, before we get into too much, I'd like to call up Ernie Hauser and President Terry Hennessy to dedicate a very important donation that's been given to the building. And it's something I think your eyes will pop out once you get a good glimpse of it. Are both of these gentlemen in the house?
I almost got you.
That was your best shot of the day.
For those who don't know, Ernie Howes is one of the kids in the Long Island Minutemen. And he told me a long time ago he wanted to do something for the company and he didn't know what, so he came up with a great idea. Ernie has a foundry down in Long Island, which he's soon going to leave. And so he had the idea of founding and casting a plaque that we could put on the outside of the building, that we could thereby dedicate this building to the drum corps people that went on before us. I'm going to ask Ernie and Terry to pull the sheet off the plaque.
With the skirt.
Pull the sheet.
You got to get together, folks.
Get together, fellas.
Certainly appreciate that applause. I've been drumming for a lot of years and never got any applause, quite frankly. But never say die, right? I was unable to get up here to help the fellows through the years because I was profoundly interested in what the company stood for, and I promised George Ripperger many years ago that I had wanted to do something. I thought in doing this in bronze, which is an everlasting metal, it would certainly last longer than any paint job I probably could have done on a building, and also last much longer than I probably will. I hope all you people will admire it for many years to come, and it is, as I said, the everlasting metal, and should be with us a very, very long time. Thank you very much.
Ernie, on behalf of the members of the Company of Fifers and Drummers, I accept this plaque, and I've got to say, I just saw it. It's magnificent, isn't it? Yes. I've read the text. I know what the text says. It's absolutely magnificent. This is not some simple piece of work. This is done by professionals. It's done extremely well. Ernie says it's going to last forever. I hope it lasts until Fife and Drum has no more time to go. Never. Which is past forever. Thank you very much, Ernie.
I feel that we should read the copies, and I tried moving it, but I can't. So if somebody wants to hang in front of it and read it off, I think we will do it. I think you'll all be very impressed by what it has to say.
Hey, Classy built that stand. I wouldn't do that if I were you. Is he right?
Somebody come up and give Kevin, come on up here.
to those fifers and drummers who introduced the historic instruments to our shores, to the earliest town drummers who summoned the colonists to worship and war, to the militia and continentals whose military field musicians animated the marching column, inspired the troops, and heralded our first cries of freedom, to the village drum corps which kept the spirit of liberty alive so that the American eagle would never cease to rise screaming at the sound of the deep drum, to the ancient fifers and drummers who, when playing together, might be heard in the next town, but when playing at muster could be heard in the next state, to all those citizen musicians who were the patriotic pride and joy of their communities as their playing was demanded on every occasion. They were envied by the men, admired by the ladies, and worshipped by the children. To all our forebears, we dedicate this memorial plaque in ancient fellowship to celebrate the 25th anniversary of the Company of Fifers and Drummers in the Drum Corps state of Connecticut, in the Honorable William A. O'Neill, Governor, and a true friend, October 6, 1990, World Headquarters, Museum of Fife and Drum, Ivoryton. One of the more important parts of the day are the awards that we give out to the drum corps people most deserving. And certainly the ones most deserving at a day like this are the ones who travel the furthest or who have lived the longest. Now, as far as I know, unless anybody is here that I'm not aware of, Ed Sullo of Atlanta, Georgia, traveled the furthest for this affair. Ed, would you come up, please? Florida. Oh, somebody from Florida. Oh, all right.
I'll bring them both up.
We have 2 awards for traveling the longest distance. Will the gentleman from Florida please come up? Oh, he's not a gentleman. It's Joe Massetti. Joe, how could I have forgotten? You told me before, everybody always forgets you. Nobody remembered when you played the bells in the Knights of Columbus? He says, nobody remembers me. After today, they'll all remember you. How the hell did I know Florida was further away than Atlanta? No, we have 2. We have 2. For the Jaybird traveling the longest distance, Joe Massetti, would you like to say a few words?
Thank you.
And for the Jaybird traveling the next longest distance, Ed Sullo of Atlanta, Georgia, he gets a felicitation. Spelled correctly this time. Thank you so much. I hope I'm not going to be wrong on this next one. He said he didn't want to come in, but I told him that Larry Crone said if he didn't come in, he's going to hit him on top of the head. Oscar Coolish, are you with us?
Hey, Joe.
Are you with us, Oscar? He didn't want to come in. He said he's getting sick and tired of getting this old-timer award. Oscar is 86. He plays with Chester. He just got married a couple of years ago, and I think that's why he's a little tired out. Is he still in his car? Well, we'll put this aside from Oscar because he's going to get it whether he likes it or not. Come on up, Oscar, for Christ's sake. Now you see why Chester drums so slow. Here you go, Oscar, and may you have many more in the future. Why don't you say a couple of words? Tell them about these kids out here. I had trouble coming up the stairs. So do I. Take it easy, Oscar. Very good. Now the next one. A couple of minutes. I've got to keep my signals straight. The next one goes to. This almost sounds vile. The next one is the jollificator of the day. That's Jack O'Brien. Is he up to climbing up the steps? Where is he? He's not sleeping under the bar again, is he? classificator of the day, and I want you to explain to them what that means.
Thank you very much. Very much appreciated. 6 months have gone fast, sir.
That's the best speech I've heard since the time we called up Larry Larrick, and he said, "Why don't you wait till don't wait till I'm half in the bag before you call me up to make a speech." Our final award is a commendation because I have nothing else to give him. This is going to the Larry Crone because he gives a commendable roast every year.
Here, here.
Just say thank you.
I'm totally unprepared. Thank you.
Thank God. Now, a little bit earlier, I was awarded this very nice piece of artwork by one of the members of the Sailing Masters. I'd like to have him come up and identify himself. He handed it to me while I was at the bar, and I never recognized anybody at saloons. But we like to encourage people to do things like this for the organization because it adds to the decor of the place, and it gives an indication of just how much we all think of it.
Hold it up, Eddie. Yeah, hold it up.
25th year in stained glass. I know now his name is Frenchie. It's on his shirt. Thank you very much, Frenchie.
I don't see him around. Yeah.
Before going further, there's a few people I should thank. I want to thank the setup crew. I want to thank Joanne Held, who is donating all of the food and the work that goes with the preparation and presentation of the food. She's done it in memory of her mother, who was a fifer for many years. Now, the registration crew is the same as usual as Rusty Borgie and her husband Dick. The bar, the Ancient Mariners handle the bar because they've got a familiarity with that field. Coffee started with Scott Greenstreet, and if his coffee didn't taste good, tell him. The museum shall, okay? I'll be downstairs. And now the moment you've all waited for. Is Larry Crone still among us? Larry Crone.
Nice shirt, Larry.
I just got in from a rest brook.
A rest brook.
Hi, well, gang. I hitchhiked down with Walter Rinkovich, and we had quite a hell of a time, getting a lift. And the only car that stopped had Massachusetts plates, and it was Barney Frank, and Walter was afraid to get in. Joe Franklin, that old sage from Moodus who got suspended for playing over 73 beats a minute. He said, that's nothing to be afraid of. He says, real fear is being stuck on I-95 after 2 cups of coffee and a bran muffin. Those tie-ups on 95 are really something. You get stuck, a tanker flips over, and the oil goes all over the place. It's 3 or 4 hours till they clean it up. If it was a Twinkie truck, our last administration had cleaned it up in about 5 minutes. Oh, well, enough of that. Welcome to the 15th annual Jaybird and the 25th anniversary party. And some people ask why I do this every year, and it's very simple. It's the only time anybody listens to what I have to say. You like my camouflage hat? I You know, you gotta laugh at this or you're gonna get it again next year. You know, but before I do, I'd like to introduce a man who hopes that God grades on a curve. A man who's glad his mother named him Matty, because that's what everybody calls him. He's since gone to blazes. Our first Jaybird chairman, and he's run a few of them. Where are you, Matty Lyons? Are you here? No. What are you going to do? That's the way it is. He's afraid they're going to ask him to run another one. And here today is a man who says this is the oldest he's ever been. You already met Oscar Coolish. And I said to Oscar, I said, to what do you attribute your age? And he says, well, he says, I don't drink, I don't smoke, I never chased women. And I get up every day at 6 in the morning. I said, geez, Oscar, I had an uncle that lived like that, and he died at 70. How do you explain that? He says, well, he didn't do it long enough. By the way, before I get done with Oscar, he asked me, he'll be around with you circulating a petition. He wants you all to sign it. He wants Medicare to pay for his vasectomy. Oh, and by the way, have you heard the McGowan brothers, they bought another Duesenberg? This is their sixth. And, you know, I don't know what all the fuss is about. Because, you know, if it's such a great automobile, why don't you see more of them around? I also have been donated for the McGowans from the company. I have their 7th Duesenberg. Of course, it's going to cost you. And if one of them would come up and accept it, I'm sure that Kevin Brown downstairs will take a donation for a table.
Right.
Well, you know.
See, that's why they didn't show up.
Oh, and you know, by the way, you know, Kevin Brown, he spoke to you. You know, he's that famed drum major from the Tucket Ancients.
He's won two majorette awards.
Yes, he recently auditioned for the Chippendales, and they turned him down. He put the G string on backwards.
It's the only way it fit.
And it fit. That was my I'd like to make a brief mention of the newlyweds. You know, Big Jim Hirschfield's wife, Noreen, says that Jim didn't get down on his knees to propose. He had to get up on them. And Jeanette says that she and Jim Ligori only argue about one thing, the housework. She doesn't like the way he does it. Look, I got one word of advice for you guys, the young people. Don't fight about it. You know, I've been married 38 years. My wife still leaves the toilet seat down. I would also like to mention that, you know, we have a homeless person in this organization, and his wife says there's nobody that's homeless than Leo Brennan. You know, Leo is also our resident vegetarian, but he's got to give it up because Hugh Quigley told me, he says that every time Landcraft goes out, Leo leaned towards the sun. Oh, before I go further, I'd like to thank the kitchen help and the guys in the parking lot, in particular Scott Greenstreet, who you wouldn't let your daughter go out with.
You hear that, Jerry?
And Paul, get this, Blue Smoke Hayden. What do you say? Is that BS, Blue Smoke? What is that? And also, this is very inside, you know, hey, Cupcake, oh, what does CC mean? I guess it's closer together than I thought. While I'm on females, don't I wish? A person who told me she found out the secret of eternal youth, lie about your age. A person who gets annoyed at the school where she teaches fife when the nuns refer to her as a lay person. Ellie Borick. And I'd also like to mention one of our younger people, and this is a person who single-handedly turned the Connecticut Blues performance around. Before she rejoined, they were on a winning streak. Our store manager, Cindy Barrows. Now a man I'd like to mention was caught doing 53 in a 35-mile zone, and he told the cop he was dyslexic. A man who, when a Canadian Corps played God Save the King at Westbrook's Muster, was the first to try to stand up. Jack County, where are you, Jack? Well, anyway, you know, Jack's buddy, Ed Dombrowski, that's the resident physician. He happens not to be here today. But he says the best cure for dyslexia is cross your eyes. Well, what kind of season? Gus Guccia had a great muster as usual, and it ended with a bang. He had some great fireworks, and we all enjoyed it. And there were two highlights of the Young Colonials muster. And the one was a contest between St. Benedict's and the 1st Michigan to see who could stay on the stand the longest. And the other one was the superb drum line fielded by the Yankee Toonsmiths. And that contained the other Freddie Novak. And Westbrook, as usual, was a great day. Holy cow, 85 cores. That was supposed to be Phil Rizzuto. I noticed I don't do imitation. And they ran it off without a hitch.
Right.
And the man who went from passion to pension, Lee Zudema, and the man who hits the nail squarely on the thumb, Chuck McGrath, they did a real fantastic job. I'd also like to mention that Westbrook beans are still best at the last report. Am I too fast for you? Well, I put it off as long as I can. So here they are, our officers. So first, a man who says he's known for his intelligence, wit, erudition, and integrity. I know him for his modesty. A man with both feet planted firmly in the air. Our President, Terry Hennessy.
Hello again. I have a couple of duties to perform. The first is to say thank you to all of you for attending what I consider to be the best fife and drum day of the year. It's my favorite day. We can all loosen up a little bit, even though we have to listen to Larry Crone. I have two things to do, and I forgot part of it. Kevin, can you hand me that bag? The first, in 1965, a group called the Wayworn Travelers presented a record to the fife and drum world known as the Songs of Freedom. And by popular demand, that record has now been made into a cassette. With the consent of the Captain James Buxton Fifes and Drums, they've added some of the regimental music of the 15th Massachusetts. The recording was arranged to reach all levels of fife and drum enthusiasts, young and old alike. The Fifers in the Songs of Freedom are Dave Gregory, Walter Rinkevich, Harlan Ives, and Chuck Truesdell. The snare drummer is Paul Cormier, and the bass drummer is the famous Ray Broder. The narration on the cassette was done by Terry Hennessy. I'm supposed to say that because it's written down here. The reason we're up here today, can I have Mr. Olson, please? Where is Mr. Olson? Mr. Broder. Mr. Broder and the members of the Wayworn Travelers, of which I had very little to do, but the members of the Wayworn Travelers have chosen to dedicate the recording to the man who has done more than any other single person in the ancient drum corps world to foster and promote the ancient cause, Mr. Edward Olson. Congratulations. Ed gets the first copy of the cassette and a Wayworn Traveler's hat. I think most of the corps have received by now a mailer by which you can buy the recording. The second duty I had to perform is a bit of a surprise. Pleasant though it may be, it's a surprise. A year ago today, one of the members of our corps brought his newfound friend to Jaybird's Day for the first time. Jim Hirschpeel introduced his lady Maureen to the fife and drum world and to a dog's nose early in the morning on the first Saturday of October in 1989, both of which have been deemed disastrous by some friends and relatives. During the course of the year since, the lady friend has turned into a wife. My friend Jim has turned into the guy that I stood up for as best man. And the wedding has turned into whatever it's turned into. In talking to Maureen today, she said, you know, Jim and I met without benefit of a dating service. And she said fife and drum kind of glued the relationship together. And a piece of news, by the way, it was on this day 1 year ago that Mr. Hirschpeel proposed marriage. Isn't that cute?
I did?
Isn't that cute? I think it's wonderful. So because she saved the price of a dating service and Jim saved the price of a dating service, I have in my hand a donation to the Company of Fifers and Drummers for Mr. and Mrs. James Hirschpeel, a donation of $500. By the way, until 10 seconds ago, Jim didn't know a damn thing about that.
What else is new?
That shows you that since March till now, his marriage has become just like everybody else's. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. I'll see you later in the round.
Now or what?
Hey, one drink on the house now?
She was doing her nose at 10 o'clock.
You're on.
Thanks, Terry. I don't know if you know it or not, but Terry was a member of the Old Guard. And while he was there, he applied for White House duty. And you know, that's quite the elite. And he passed the exam very easily, and then he had to stand a very vigorous inspection by the First Lady. And she walked around and and smiled and kept looking and looking, and apparently she liked what she saw. And then she said, could I see your testimonials? And Terry said, Larry, if I hadn't been a little harder here, and I'd still be at the White House today. Next, the man, when I first tried to get away from him, I couldn't overcome his gravitational pull. A man who even in 8th grade wasn't like other children, because he was 18 at the time. Our first Vice President, Tom Connolly. Where are you? Back there. And now we we come to a man who wonders what happens to the holes when you eat Swiss cheese. A man who's been compared to many great drummers, might I say unfavorably. Our second Vice President, Dave Ukirk. Where are you, Dave? Back there. Okay, next. A person who wants a new typewriter, because she says the present one makes too many mistakes. Someone who can erase 80 words a minute. A person who can't understand why U doesn't follow Q in the dictionary. Our secretary, Jerry Barrows. Now the new boy on the block. And when he was asked for a financial statement, he hemmed and hawed and hesitated, and then he said, a fool and his money are soon parted. Oh, God. A man who brought a new era to piping, our treasurer, Tom Culhane. Where are you? Tom, I don't think is here today. And now a man who has a situation in the hollow of his head. A man who thinks Dun & Bradstreet is an intersection. Our comptroller, Ron Chambers. I know he's here somewhere. That's our elected officers, and now we have trustees. Can you imagine this? Trustees. Well, anyway, a man suffering from bottle fatigue. The only way to get his attention is to pretend you're a bartender. A man whose wife gets excited by four-letter words like sail. Our curator, Ed Olson. You know what I like. I'd just like to mention that, you know, Eddie and I, we go back a long ways. And we shared many, many things. Drum corps, contests, drinking, a girlfriend. The old-timers should understand that one. We have another first here. A man who retired to Florida, and Florida sent him back. The company's first treasurer, that's how we got to Florida. Bobby Cans, where you at, Bobby? There he is. And might I say, he's still smoking. And he tells me, he says, Larry, I'm no quitter. And now, a man who said he wanted to live to a ripe old age. Well, one more year should do it. A man who says it's not the company paper, but his own circulation that needs keeping up. A man who took a speed reading course, and now he's out of the bathroom in half the time. A man who'll tell you about taking control of your life, mastering one's fate, and asserting one's place in the home, and anything else that Ellie tells him to say. The editor of the Ancient Times, Mo Schutz. I would like to just say that Mo has put together, I think, one of the greatest in-house papers that I've seen anywhere, and I think we should give him really a great round of applause. What's that?
Many people cut it in 4x4 sheets and put them on a roll.
Hey, I'll do the funnies, you do the editing.
It's too stiff for that.
You know, earlier this year, the Kentish Guards, they threw a big bash for Mo's 75th birthday. And I couldn't go. I'm sorry I couldn't go. But they told me that the cake collapsed from the weight of the candles. Now, man, he's not here. I'm not going to bother him. Where am I? Okay. No, I have good ones for him, too. Next year I'll use them. Okay, now, a man who says he personally passes all the water you drink here. A man who went to last year's Halloween party without a costume, but he was sober so nobody recognized him. A man who last week caught a 40-pound tuna and wanted to mount it, but there were too many people around. Our building chairman, Norman Ott. There is he. You know, our ex-building chairman, he wants to give you this word of advice. He said, look, there's 3 ways to get things done around this building. He says, do it yourself, hire somebody, or forbid Pace to do it. He also said, when Bill gets to you, he says, don't let it get you. He's just fold the road map wrong in front of him, but don't let him at it. Okay, now a man who says, there's only 7 bottles here. How can I make a case out of that? A man who says, don't let the company history be written in 11 chapters. That's our attorney, Bill Gallagher. I don't know. Can Bill make it? No. To build or not to build? That is the question. Whether 'tis noble to construct a pavilion or what the hell, you know what's coming next. A man who says it's not easy being perfect, but somebody has to do it. A man who thinks the world's against him, and it is. A man who plays like Quigley, Redigan, and Parks. He uses 2 sticks. Our all-around doer and the greatest fundraiser that any organization ever had, Bill Pace.
It'll be a short one. Kathy Westall, I think, just arrived. I want to give Jim Sherman, we're pushing for lifetime members, and apparently our last 3 lifetime members are Jaybirds. There's Buzz Allen, Jim Sherman. Where's Jim? Is he here? You want to come up and get your lifetime membership card, please? And George Uranium, we don't have his card, but he became a lifetime member today. Come on up here and we'll get a little handshake out of this. What we're trying to do, if you have an opportunity, please look on the bulletin board downstairs. Buzz Allen's latest sketch, revision based on what the people in planning and zoning here in Essex have asked us to do, is being done. You know that our slogan has been Tomorrow the World. We're probably going to be after you all again, because when you see the plans downstairs, you realize that what we probably need is $250,000 to complete what we want to do. But when we first took the building, the late Dave Boddy and I called Bill Gallagher one night about 11:30 after we'd been halfway through a bottle of Jack Daniels, and we said, Billy, buy the building. We know we can raise at least $100,000. We've raised so far in excess of $165,000, and we still feel Tomorrow the World. And I want to thank all of you, your corps, and especially the Jaybird people active in the corps. In the on the journal, the 25th anniversary journal, we raised our goal was $10,000, and I panicked and I started making phone calls because we were only at about 6,500, and I want to tell you that we raised almost $11,000. Thank you all very much. I want to give Jim this. He wanted to know where the gold watch is. See Kevin Brown.
Right,
Kevin's got hot watches going from. Adi O'Sullivan sent a box up from the top. There you are.
He's sitting on the floor over there.
What?
He's sitting on the floor over there.
Who?
Eddie Classic.
Oh.
Thank you, Bill. You know, last week I had an occasion to call Bill on the telephone, and the line was busy. So I dialed the operator and I asked her would she please check the line, and she says, oh yeah, she says the line's busy. And I told her, I said, that can't be. I'm the only person that talks to him. Oh, gee whiz. All right, now we have some ex-officers here today, and I would like, I think you should see them, because we are where we're at. And we came this far on the backs of other people that carried us. And they've done a fine job up until now, and I think they're going to keep on going. And the first I'd like to introduce a man who, after reading the joys of cooking and the joys of sex, opted for the cooking. Our ex-president, Frank Orsini. I left the best one out. You know, last week I was looking at a tape from Jaybird '88 when Frank was president, and he was talking about when he was a student of Les Parks. You know, I looked at this thing and I looked at this thing, and it was Mr. Parks this and Mr. Parks that, and Mr. Parks the other thing. I said, how come you call me that goddamn Larry? And now a man who doesn't have a rifle rack in the cab of his truck, he has a spice rack. A man who put a defroster in the rear window of his car so your hands won't get cold when you push it. A man who says his waist is now 34, but that's through the middle. One of our ex-VPs, Roger Clark. Where are you, Roger? And now a man who's 200 swallows ahead of Capistrano. A man who's given up drinking since he saw the writing on the floor. One of our ex-VPs, Ernie Kilboris. Where are you, Ernie? I would like to have a round of applause and a little acknowledgement for Ernie, because he's also chairman of the Junior Activities Committee, and they put on quite a thing with the children, and that's where it all is. If we don't get them interested into what we're doing, 20 years from now we'll have nothing. So Ernie, take a And now a man who, whenever I introduce him, things pick up speed. That's what happens when you go downhill. A man who says he's the boss at home, but he lies about other things. One of our ex-presidents, that famous bass drummer from Landcraft, Eldrick Arsenal. He's here somewhere, and also his lovely wife, Helen, who was our sutler for a few years. Well, wherever. Okay, and now we come to two minds without a single thought. A pair that think opera would be great if it wasn't for all the singing.
Hey, Nick, can I take this down?
Our music committee.
You want to take a break?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's first the man whose last appearing at the drum clinic set back drumming for 100 years. And he doesn't know what all the fuss is about air travel. He says he always has plenty of leg room. Duke Terreri. And second, a man with a Van Gogh ear for music. A man who took my life savings out through my kid's mouth. Doc Ferranti. I don't think Doc made it. I don't see the bird, so I'm gonna knock him off.
He's in Europe.
Oh, okay. Well, then I'll save this for next year. Now we come to a man who believes that the greatest joy of fatherhood is in getting there. A man who attributes his loss of the 1950 Northeastern to tearing up a chain letter in 1949. That bass drummer and the plaque maker, Nick Atmazio.
Hey, Nick.
Come on up.
Hey, all right.
Hey, I ate the time up. What more do you want? No, with Willie Mayer, known as Willie the Weasel from the 4th Degree Knights of Columbus. He wants to know where the rakes of Malawi.
He's a fantastic drummer. He wants to know what the song is. When I was a kid, I used to have to call him Mr. Quigley. But now that since I've grown up, I can call him Hugh. As I said, this, it's not in bronze. It doesn't equal bronze. But this is something that I think Hugh will appreciate. Oh, God.
Hold up. Hold it up, yo.
Thank you, Nick, so much. You're just something else, something special. Fantastic, really.
He wanted to compose in the worst way, and he made it. A man who wrote something that was recently accepted by a big magazine, a check for a year's subscription. The father of the ancient mariners, Roy Watrous. Where are you, Roy? If you'd seen the mariners around, you'd wonder who the mother is. And finally,
Okay, folks, you got 3 or 4 more minutes. While you're buying your last minute tickets, please let me take this opportunity to announce to you those people who have been kind enough to donate the prizes for the raffle.